All right, so that's running right now. So we'll start out with, you already asked some questions. For those who aren't here, you missed it. Are there other questions?
Not for me.
Not for me either.
Okay.
I thought that was that one what I brought up. I thought that was holding me back. Now I feel silly because I waited this long. I'd already had this done.
May that be the silliest thing today.
Yes.
All right, so let's see how good your ears are.
Ooh, frequency. Oh, this is gonna be terrible for me. I've heard that.
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't the test, but it is good. I guess that is, we have to start out with, can you hear that? Can you hear that?
No,
I heard it.
I can't hear it.
How old are you?
I'm 25,
26.
Huh.
and I was also working around my own machinery in the Navy, where
Wow.
they gave us ear protection, but I never wore ear protection, like a dummy. So.
Ooh.
That's where it sure went up right there. I can't hear it either, but I've sort of aged out.
Mhm.
Years ago, I was trying to find something that would play fractional frequencies, because the LabQuest 2 will play them, but will play frequencies, but only integers, whole numbers.
Mhm.
And I found this, and I had this set up, and I was hitting some high frequency right there, and then forgot to hit stop. And so I'm carrying on with class, and someone says, "What's that high pitched noise?" And because I forgot to turn it off. And,
Yeah.
and probably the most petty thing I've done here is there were students just at the early college. They were just being 16-year-olds, but they were really loud outside my office. So I put it up to a frequency that I can't hear, cranked it up really loud.
Sure. Like, what's that sound?
I probably shouldn't admit that. There's a certain amount of glee and sadness when I talk about doing that. Anyway, so the test is, let's go back to 440.
Yeah, I can hear that.
That's
All right.
what our power for our combat systems was run off 440 hertz. So it was
okay.
just a loud ringing all the time.
You were in the military? Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go.
So
So you can hear that.
Yep.
Yep.
Is that the same frequency or different frequency than the one I just played?
Sounds different to me.
Did you?
It sounds the same.
All right, play
Is
that
that
again.
440?
Oh, I didn't say that. That's the first one I played.
Okay.
And here's the second one I played.
Sounds different to me.
Sounds the same.
There is a difference there. All right, how about this one? All right, the first one I played. And a different second one.
I feel like it's more psychological at this point. It sounds the same. That one sounded the same.
Actually, those sounded the same to you?
Yeah.
Okay, that time those actually were the same.
Oh, okay.
All right. A little bit subtler. All right, so here's the 440 again. And a different one.
That sounded different.
It sounded the same to me.
The second one sounded like it was lower.
Oh,
Like
it should have actually been higher, but
higher. Oh, okay.
could you hear a difference in the tones?
Different now, frequency, right?
Yeah.
Different frequency.
Yeah, he's asking if you heard
All right, so
that.
here's the first one. This is 440 hertz. And here's the second one frequency. They sound the same or different to you?
It's a difference. It's a little difference.
Yeah, and some people can hear that. Some people have really nicely trained tuned ears. They can hear those subtle differences. I cannot. At some point, this one I think I can tell the difference. I'm not sure. Let's see. So 440, 441.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not hearing that difference.
It's a slight, like, it's hard to explain. I can't
It's
put-
hard to tell the difference, but I can feel the difference. It's hard.
Alright, so however, there are people like Holden and me who can't tell the difference. So let's talk about how you actually, what can we do in order to be able to tell the difference between them when you don't have the fine tuning that apparently you do have?
It's funny, 440 is probably the reason why I have hearing loss, because it's really loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if it was running 440, you might just have nightmares. I mean, that's so ingrained in your head
Yeah.
that anything. Alright,
I just
so,
have I think part of it for me is is being on a spectrum. Could be perception related, I don't know. I couldn't,
and it's possible, and I don't know how much is just the way the brain is wired and how much is the actual mechanical aspects of the ear.
yeah, I don't know. But I'd probably say if I wanted to find out without that fine tuning, I would maybe hook it up to make a microphone and hook it up to an oscilloscope.
That is one way, and we do have, not an oscilloscope per se, but we do have microphones that hook to the LabQuests, and you can actually do a strict measurement and find the frequency of it. However, we have a simpler way of doing it, where we can actually hear the difference, but we can. So I've got, obviously, two different waves at different frequencies. Now, if we're playing these at the exact same time, let's think about what's going on here. So here's a place right here where they're both at a higher pressure, if this is sound, both higher pressure at the same time. So it's interference when you have two waves overlapping like that. What kind of interference is this? Flashback to when we were in the hallway. We talked about the two types of interference.
I don't recall.
So when you have two waves that produce something larger than either one, this is known as constructive interference.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if I wrote it on the board before. Definitely it was mentioned out there. And then you have other places like right here, where you have one that's at a low pressure and one's at a high pressure at the same time, and they would sort of cancel each other out, if not completely, at least partially. What kind of interference is this?
Destructive interference.
Yeah. As I write, I'm holding the marker like this, and I keep thinking, what would my kindergarten teacher say if she saw me holding something like that? And once again, I wonder whatever happened to her. All right, so we get these periods where we get this constructive interference and periods where we have destructive interference. So what I did is I took two waves. I took two waves right there. These are slightly different. They both start at the same place. If you notice, they both start at zero, or if you can't see that little detail in the middle. And they peak slightly differently. If you'll notice that this one right here ends on the way down, and this one ends after it's gone down and is coming back up. So they are slightly different, even though I think if I just showed them, the two of them to you, I suspect you wouldn't be able to immediately tell which one's a higher frequency or which one's a lower frequency.
Not without counting.
Yeah,
But another right one is higher frequency.
higher frequency?
Yeah,
It might be.
I think the other one was.
Well, we can check that out quickly enough. So I took the blue one here, and I basically traced it onto a transparency here. And you can see that it lines up well enough and then sticks to the static. So they overlap what I'm gonna call pretty well. So just showing you that what I've traced onto the transparency matches what's in blue there. And so now I take these two. And I line them up, and so notice that it starts out that the blue and the purple stay together, and then they get farther and farther off. Purple seems to be hitting a little bit closer to it, so it is a smaller wavelength, so a higher frequency, as Kong had suggested, or claimed. He was bold enough to say it was this one over there. He was right. So if I play these at the exact same time, obviously constructive interference here, but then it gets farther and farther off. And that's what it would look like if I added them together.
oh,
Now before, they both had an amplitude of 1, but notice here we're going up to 2. Again, I don't know if you can see that level of detail. I'm just assuming anyone younger than I am has better eyesight. But it starts at 0, goes up to 2, whereas before it went up to 1.
that's interesting. I can see it starting to turn into, it's like making this very faint cone.
So,
Attenuation.
so basically, like at the beginning of that waveform, it's constructive interference, that's why it's 2, and then by the end, it's starting to be destructive interference.
Technically, at this point, the amplitude is still above 1, so it's not officially destructive, but it's less constructive as we go.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I took it out to 140 whatever units you want. I mean, this is just basically I was plotting the two sine curves. But if I extended that farther, we get this. And so at some point, about there, it becomes destructive interference, and obviously it's complete destruction at this point.
So what's going on at the end, going on past that a little pinch?
What's going on past that?
Yeah.
It's gonna get bigger again, and then it's gonna get smaller again, and then bigger again, smaller again.
Oh,
So it's gonna,
It's inverse, right? It's invert the wave, right? Like when the positive is go down and become negative.
Since it is oscillating between positive and negative the entire time, I'm not sure inverted is the right word. It goes from the loudest to the quietest.
quietest, then back to the loudest, back to
Yep.
the quietest. So like a siren almost, sort of. You could think of it like that.
In some sense, or more likely, what we're about to do over here.
Okay.
So we have a way, if we have frequencies that are just a little bit off, this is what shows up. So here's 441. I'm gonna start with 441, then we play 440 on top of it. Now it's very clear, at least to me, so I'm assuming everyone else.
yeah, I can
That-
hear that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Have any of you ever seen someone tune a piano?
No.
No, I have not.
All right, so they basically come in with tuning forks, so they know when you pluck a note, I guess that would make it a harpsichord. When you strike a note, it plays a certain frequency, and so what they do is they play a tuning fork that should match it, and then they listen for the beats. So if they don't hear beats, then they're dead on, or they're so incredibly far off. But if you're tuning pianos, you're probably dead on. And if you got somewhat of a beat, then you think, all right, so I'm a little bit off. So they need to change the frequency of the string.
By either tightening or loosening it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you recall, the speed of a wave is the frequency times the wavelength, but it's also the square root of the tension over the linear density. Now, the linear density of a piano string is constant for that string. That's pretty constant. So you can now mess with the tension. The wavelength is going to be determined by where it's clamped down. So that's pretty much set for the string. So you can mess with the tension in order to mess with the frequency. As you tighten the string, the higher the frequency. Anyone who's ever played with a rubber band, as you pull it and you start strumming on it, you should hear a higher frequency. And just because it's always nice when you have a physics demonstration that works, we're going to do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see.
You have that elastic string, remember they were using?
Yeah,
for
you
vibration?
use an elastic string with that vibrating device.
The string vibrator.
Oh, yeah, why not try using that, see if that'll make any,
Maybe, yeah, you could stand, you could put your foot on it. And I think that would put some tension on there.
or do you need, or one of us could hold at one end and you hold the other.
You guys are getting so sophisticated here.
Oh,
Or like an acoustic guitar.
All right, so. All right.
maybe.
Obviously, it's not great, but you can hear a frequency there as I tighten it up.
A little higher, sounds.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm loosening the string as I go.
and quieter.
Quieter, but also.
It's
the-
going
the-
down.
The pitch is going down to match the frequency going down. I might have mentioned this before, pitch officially is what you hear, frequency is what deals with the vibrations. I will use them interchangeably, probably much to the chagrin of some students, but I just use them interchangeably. If
So-
it bothers you, I will try to break myself of the habit. Anyone bothered by my using pitch and frequency interchangeably?
No.
Okay.
They are the same in a sense.
They're very much related to each other, but officially pitch is what is heard. Frequency produces the pitch.
So pitch is the audible form of frequency.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. I can understand why you'll use them interchangeably.
All right, so what I just played over there, I was playing 440 hertz and 441 hertz. Now, what you were hearing with that whoa, whoa, that's known as a beat frequency. So I'm going to do it again, and I want you to tell me what is the period of the beat frequency. In other words, when I do it, it's based upon where it's silent to silent. How much time from when it's silent to when it's silent again. And if you need to do several of them, then do several of them. But if you want to use a timer, or if you want to count in your head, either one works.
Yeah, I could use the lap, like a lap function.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so I'm going to start out playing 440, and just, I'm assuming even if I start before you're ready, you'll get ready at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
And stopping.
Okay.
All right. Kong and Holden, did you count in your head? Did you try to time it in your head?
No,
Oh.
I
Okay, so
just kind of I just thought I'd go along with the what?
Alex. All right, sorry, Aaron.
I got about just over a second for each pulse. There's like 1.01 seconds, 1.03 seconds, around that.
Okay.
Average. So,
Ideally, it would be 1 second exactly.
yeah. Human error there.
All right. So Now I'm about to show you the most sophisticated math you will use in the entire course. Got the two frequencies here. All right. To find the beat frequency, subtract. What's the relationship between period and frequency?
It's reciprocal.
Yeah.
So the period, the beat period, is just 1 over that, 1 over the beat frequency, which is 1 over 1 hertz, which is 1 second. So it should have been 1 second in this particular case. So if I did 440.5 hertz and 440 hertz, what is the beat frequency?
Would be half a second. Half a second.
Yeah.
500 milliseconds.
No.
2 seconds. It's 2 seconds. The parent 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's where we're getting, but you said
I
a half of a.
half a second, which I thought would be 500 milliseconds. 'cause-
Yeah, but it's not half a second, it's half a hertz.
Oh, half a hertz, that's right.
Yeah, 500 millihertz.
So half a hertz, which would translate to 2 seconds. And so let's just make sure that that works.
Yeah, two, yeah.
All right.
What would 440 over and 460 sound like?
We'll do that, let's do 440 and a half and 440.
Yeah, I was just curious.
That's 440 and a half and 4.
Yeah, it sounds like it's longer.
Yeah, so 1001, 1002, 1001, 1002, 1001, 1002. So there does seem to be some credence to what I'm telling you. It's nice when there's some evidence for it.
Yeah, it's really weird, but I mean, I know it's been around, but it's still pretty interesting to discuss, to be aware of such a concept.
Yeah.
And to hear it.
Now, you asked about 460 and 440.
Yes.
So the beat frequency should be,
It'll be 20 hertz.
Yeah.
all right, so 20 hertz. So what would the period be?
It'd be 50 milliseconds.
Okay, so what you should hear is a trill.
A trill.
You're hearing 20 beats, you're hearing 20 per second. So with a frequency of 20, that's 20 cycles a second, so it should be loud 20 times every second. There's 460 and 440. The trill.
And it comes to it comes to a point to where the human ear can't even distinguish the difference, right?
Yeah, there's.
So ideally, if I did a 660 and a 220, based upon this, what we should hear is 440. But you don't, you hear the two notes.
Yeah.
But here's 660
I get
and
that.
220. Oops.
That's weird.
It seems like it seems a bit like the 220 is drowning out the. It feels like it's somewhat drowning out.
It's probably also the speakers too.
And I wonder how much is that, because the textbook that we used for 110 was making the claim that if you played something at 20,000 hertz, which very few people I think can hear. I think that's basically at the upper limit if it's loud enough.
Yeah, I think that's the barrier between audible and ultrasonic.
Yeah. And if you play 2440, so if you play these two ultrasonic sounds, or if you can hear this, tack on, make it a 21,000, 440 and 21,000, but you end up with 440, and made the claim that you could play the two ultrasonic sounds and create something that you can hear. I have tried to produce this, and you can actually download apps for your phone or for your tablet, which will play sounds that dogs can hear. And so I put one of them on the tablet and I played it, and some of them my dogs ignored completely and some of them my dogs turned.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, they heard that, so let's try it out. And I could not hear when I played them together, hoping to hear the beat frequency as a normal sound. So I don't know how much was the speaker and how much was the guy who wrote that textbook was just pretending it worked.
Or I guess maybe that's just one of those cases where where it's just theory and it's impossible, it's not really it's one of those cases where it should happen, but it shouldn't.
And
Well, it doesn't.
And if you look at the hearing charts, part of it is a volume thing as well. And so it's possible if I played them, I didn't have, maybe I did a lab quest and I had a microphone there, and it's possible that it would have picked up something that I'm just not gonna pick up because
Yeah.
I'm middle-aged or.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be a number of things.
Yeah. But with those beats here, we have a way of actually being able to check notes. So the red tube, we can predict what the frequency we will hear with the red tube is, and we can check it out by playing the predicted frequency against that and to see if we hear the beats. Now, if we nail it dead on, you won't hear any beats at all. Or if we're way off, similar to the 460 and the 660 and the 220, it'll just sound like two different sounds. So let's do some predicted. By the way, the lab for Wednesday is posted, so don't forget to print it out. And I want to do a lab next Monday. Yeah, next Monday. So the lab that you're doing Wednesday, typically I say it's due the next time you have lab, but it's due the next time you have lab or 1 week, whichever one is longer.
So we're gonna do a lab on the 8th.
Sure.
That's just.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be the 8th. So you're doing the vibrating string lab, and then you'll do the simple pendulum lab on that Monday. The vibrating string lab due on the 10th. The ST lab due on the 15th. At some point, we're gonna have a test somewhere there, so I'm not, one of those might shift. 2 open ends. Therefore, free ends or fixed ends.
Free ends.
Okay? The simplest harmonic. It's the simplest harmonic where I've got 2 antinodes and a node in the middle. So in theory, if I hit the first harmonic, which you can't hear, but in theory, that there'd be no sound in the middle. However, if you actually put an instrument in there, it would disrupt it, and that wouldn't apply anymore. If this distance here is L, how many wavelengths is this?
One.
Is it 1?
Yes.
Not 1.
Half.
It's a half. Because remember, a full wavelength. Full wavelength is that, and basically you chopped off the 2 quarters at the ends. So that length is equal to a half of a wavelength. Therefore, the wavelength is equal to 2 times L. I know the speed of sound is equal to the frequency times the wavelength. So the frequency would be the speed divided by the wavelength. Just bring the wavelength over. And the wavelength is 2L, so the speed of sound divided by 2L should be the frequency that's heard. So let's get a length here. And let me make my excuses. I might have done it last time. This was found in the ivy in a house that we lived in, our first house. And I still claim it's probably somewhere near a dead body, but the houses you afford.
At least you didn't find jars of mercury.
Still would not be surprised with that either. Found a barbell set. Buried in the
Save you
ivy.
some money there.
All right, so as I swing this, it will stretch some. So as I'm getting the length here, I'm going to stretch it just a little bit. And assume my stretch is perfect. 79.9 centimeters is my length. .799 meters. You know, within a couple millimeters. So the speed of sound. What is the speed of sound?
I know, it's been a while, but I knew what it was in knots. I think it's like, but I can't convert it.
343 meters per second.
343 meters per second.
Yes.
You just looked that up or you remember it?
Sorry, on Google.
It's on Google.
Yeah.
Did it have a little bit of information there about the temperature?
No, just. Oh, yeah, it's now 20 degrees Celsius.
All right, so at 20 degrees Celsius, it was 343 meters per second.
Yes.
Is it 20 degrees Celsius in here?
No.
We don't have a I don't think we have a thermostat.
It's a little bit cold.
I'm sure we have one in here in the science lab.
Let's
Well, thermometer, yeah, not a thermostat. That's a control device. Thermometer will measure.
I didn't even think about temperature, but that makes sense.
Yeah, because temperature alters density and the way the molecules vibrate.